horizontal to vertical, generating about 20,000 pounds of lift. A lift fan behind the cockpit, providing about 20,000 additional lift. Floats and 2 auxiliary outlets under the wings, each providing about 1,950 thrust. Floats to adjust the balance and attitude when the aircraft is in a vertical position. The key to the F-35B's vertical takeoff and landing is the ability to rotate the main exhaust in conjunction with the lift fan. This lift fan, with a diameter of 1.27 meters, is connected to the main engine via a drive shaft and a clutch. When it is in operation, it draws air from the top of the aircraft and pushes it downwards at a speed of about 230 meters per second, generating about 89,000 newtons, 20,000 pounds. The total vertical lift of the F-35B, including the main exhaust lift fan and auxiliary outlets, reaches about 175,000 to 180,000 newtons. 39,000 to 40,000 floats exceed the weight of the aircraft to maintain a hovering state. When flying horizontally at a steady speed, the lift fan does not operate. Main engine brush and WSNI F-135 takes over the entire thrust. In vertical takeoff and landing mode, the top cover of the lift fan opens. The coupling connecting the shaft movement and the main engine transmits the force to operate the lift fan under the lift fan. A regulating exhaust helps direct the thrust and the appropriate force of the structure of the aircraft. To reduce the weight, to perform vertical takeoff, vertical thrust from the engine must be greater than the weight of the aircraft. In just under 3 seconds, F-35B can convert 15,700 floats horizontal thrust from the main exhaust into vertical thrust downward, to help the total lift reach 39,000 floats. This vertical lift is almost equivalent to the maximum thrust of a fighter aircraft, fight Eurofighter Typhoon. This powerful thrust-generating ability is due to the special engine system of F-35B developed by the company. Looking at the technical characteristics of F-35B, it is clear that this is an ideal aircraft. One point worth noting is the technology of changing the direction of the tail exhaust of F-35B, which, according to information, is said to be referenced from the JAC 141. Is this correct? So why was JAC 141 not mass-produced, although it was shown as a superpower? But the fate of JAC 141 was quite short. In 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, the JAC 141 project could not continue and was never mass-produced. Yak 141 is a supersonic fighter capable of vertical takeoff and landing, considered the successor of Yak 38. This is an aircraft perfect in combining propulsion, engine, and fan. However, the development journey of the JAC 141 encountered many major obstacles. The aircraft first flew on March 9, 1987, just over 4 years before the collapse of the Soviet Union in December 1991. At that time, the Soviet economy was in a serious recession, and the Navy, the main orderer, did not have enough budget to sustain the project. As a result, the JAC 141 was canceled in August 1991, when only 4 prototypes were built. However, the story of the JAC 141 did not end there. Of the 4 prototypes, 1 was used for ground testing, 1 for propulsion and structural testing, the other 2 were for flight testing. During testing, 1 prototype suffered a serious accident during vertical landing on October 5, 1991, on the aircraft carrier Amiro Goskov, due to a technical fault technique that caused the plane to crash and catch fire. Although the pilot escaped safely, this incident has reduced confidence in the project. From the above events, we can draw the main reasons why JAC 141 was not mass-produced. First, the technology of the plane was not reliable enough. With a high failure rate, JAC 141 used 3 engines, 1 main engine, Shojak R79, and 2 RD41 lift engines forward. When the 2 lift engines start, they produce hot air that can be sucked back into the main engine intake, causing hot air swallowing. leading to reduced performance or engine failure. Second, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia no longer has the financial resources to continue major military projects like Jak 141. Scientists and engineers are in dire straits, not being able to sustain research. Finally, the military, Air Force, and Navy of Russia shifted their focus to conventional fighters, no longer prioritizing vertical takeoff and landing capabilities, leading to the project being stopped altogether. Contrary to the USA's success with F-35 Beat, thanks to superior vision and resources, Jak 141 achieves vertical takeoff and landing capabilities by combining with the R-79 main engine, providing approximately 152 kilotons of power force propulsion with two RD lift engines, 41 each, 41.7 kilonewtons during vertical takeoff or landing. The main engine nozzle rotates down about 90 degrees to provide vertical thrust, while the two front lift engines operate via intake and exhaust to control attitude and stability. Jak 141 uses air nozzles driven from the main engine instead of separate